Diana Spencer was supposed to be the happiest woman on her wedding night, but she went to sleep crying. On the first day of her honeymoon, Charles confessed a shocking truth to her. That night, Diana learned that her marriage was nothing but an illusion. July 29, 1981, the wedding watched by 750 million people worldwide at St. Paul's Cathedral had ended. Diana Spencer was now the Princess of Wales. As she returned to Buckingham Palace with Charles in the glass carriage, she was living what appeared to be a perfect fairy tale in the world's eyes. But the reality was very different. The first thing that caught Diana's attention during the wedding reception was Charles's behavior. Her new husband kept looking at his watch and seemed distracted while chatting with guests. Diana attributed this to excitement. After all, this was their big day. But Charles's mind was elsewhere. The fact that Camilla Parker Bowles hadn't come to the wedding was bothering him. Camilla hadn't been sent a wedding invitation, of course, but Charles still felt her absence. This situation was already a bad sign for Diana, even before the honeymoon. The wedding night would be spent at Clarence's house. As Diana changed out of her evening dress, she looked at herself in the mirror. She was 20 years old and thought she was the luckiest woman in the world. She had married Prince Charles. Her life would be perfect from now on. But she would soon learn how wrong she was. As Charles approached Diana that night, there was a strange expression on his face. He didn't look happy. He looked more like a man who had completed his duty. Diana noticed this, but couldn't make sense of it. "Diana," Charles said, his voice serious, "there's something I need to talk to you about." Diana turned to him curiously. "About what, Charles?" Charles hesitated for a moment. Then, taking a deep breath, he spoke. "About Camilla." This name stopped Diana's heart. Camilla Parker Bowles, Charles's former girlfriend. Diana had heard rumors about her, but thought there was nothing between her and Charles anymore. After all, Charles had married her. "I thought everything between you and Camilla was over," Diana said, her voice trembling. Charles looked at her. There was determination in his eyes, not regret. "No, Diana. Camilla is my closest friend. I cannot remove her from my life." These words were like lightning striking Diana. On their wedding night, in the first hours after they were married, her husband was telling her he could never leave another woman. Diana's world collapsed in an instant. "What do you mean, Charles?" Diana asked, panic in her voice. Charles calmly explained, "Camilla has been with me for a very long time. She understands me. You and I, our marriage is something different. This is a duty, Diana, a royal duty." Diana struggled to understand what these words meant. She thought she had married for love, but Charles was telling her their marriage was just a duty, and in this duty there was room for Camilla.
"But we got married, Charles. We got married tonight," Diana shouted. Charles looked at her patiently. "Yes, we got married, and you'll be a perfect princess. But in our private life, some things won't change." Diana's eyes filled with tears. On her wedding night, at what should have been the happiest moment, she felt her heart breaking. "So you're going to continue seeing Camilla?" Charles nodded. "Diana, let's not make this bigger than it is. You fulfill your royal duties, and I'll continue my own life." That night, Diana cried herself to sleep. Charles was beside her, but she had never felt so alone. The wedding night was the beginning of a nightmare, not a fairy tale. When Diana woke up the next morning, she forgot where she was for a moment. Then everything came back. The wedding, Charles's words, the disappointment. It was the first morning of her real married life, and Diana was already unhappy. Charles had already gotten up. When Diana found him, he was on the phone, and as you might guess, he was talking to Camilla. Diana stood at the door and heard her husband tell another woman, "I missed you." This was just the beginning of the honeymoon. Diana would experience even bigger shocks. On the morning of July 30th, the couple set off for the royal yacht Britannia for their honeymoon. Diana hoped she could get closer to Charles during this journey. Maybe Charles's words about Camilla were temporary panic. Maybe everything would be fixed during the honeymoon. But what awaited Diana on Britannia wasn't the romance she had hoped for. In Charles's cabin, among his personal belongings, Diana made a terrible discovery. In Charles's suitcase were photographs of Camilla. Not just one or two photographs, but dozens of them. Diana examined these photographs one by one. Camilla and Charles riding horses together, having picnics, walking on the beach. These photographs spanned years. But the worst was the cufflinks she found in Charles's vest. The gold cufflinks had the letters G and F intertwined. Diana didn't understand what this meant at first. Then she asked Charles, "What do these cufflinks mean, Charles?" When Charles saw that Diana was angry about the photographs, he went on the defensive. "Diana, these aren't private things." "What do G and F mean?" Diana insisted. It didn't take long for Charles to confess. "Gladys and Fred. Camilla's and my code names." Diana was shocked. Code names? So Charles and Camilla were so close that they addressed each other with code names? "How long have you been using these code names?" Diana asked. Charles's answer devastated Diana even more. "For years. In fact, even during the wedding preparations." This meant that Charles was in secret communication with Camilla even while wedding preparations were being made. While Diana's wedding was being organized, Charles was messaging another woman with code names. Diana cried for hours on Britannia's deck that night. In the middle of the sea, isolated from the world, she had learned that her marriage was fake. This wasn't a honeymoon. It was torture. On the third day, Diana experienced an even bigger shock. She found letters Charles had written to Camilla among his belongings. These letters were dated just a few days before the wedding. In one of the letters, Charles wrote, "Dear Gladys, this marriage is just duty. You will always be in my heart. We'll meet soon, Fred." Diana felt her hands trembling as she read this letter. In another letter, Charles was even more explicit. "Diana is young and naive. It will be easy to train her. Don't worry, nothing will change." Diana felt used and deceived. Charles hadn't been careful about hiding these letters at all, as if he didn't care that Diana would find them. Or maybe he wanted Diana to accept the situation. When Diana confronted Charles with the letters, Charles's reaction was cold. "Diana, you're part of the royal family now. You need to accept certain realities here." "What realities?" shouted Diana. Charles calmly replied, "The reality that royal marriages aren't love marriages. These are strategic partnerships. You'll have children, fulfill royal duties, and I'll live my own life." These words were betrayal for Diana. She thought she had married for love, but she had only been chosen for fertility and protocol. For a 20-year-old young woman, this truth was too painful. "Then why did you choose me?" Diana asked, crying. Charles's answer was even more merciless. "Diana is young and naive. It will be easy to train her. Don't worry, nothing will change." Diana felt used and deceived. Charles hadn't been careful about hiding these letters at all, as if he didn't care that Diana would find them. Or maybe he wanted Diana to accept the situation. When Diana confronted Charles with the letters, Charles's reaction was cold. "Diana, you're part of the royal family now. You need to accept certain realities here." "What realities?" shouted Diana. Charles calmly replied, "The reality that royal marriages aren't love marriages. These are strategic partnerships. You'll have children, fulfill royal duties, and I'll live my own life." These words were betrayal for Diana. She thought she had married for love, but she had only been chosen for fertility and protocol. For a 20-year-old young woman, this truth was too painful. "Then why did you choose me?" Diana asked, crying. Charles's answer was even more merciless. "Diana is young and naive. It will be easy to train her." On the 5th day, Diana decided to give Charles one last chance. "Charles, if you leave Camilla, we can have a real marriage between us." Charles looked at her with pity. "Diana, you still don't understand the situation. Camilla is the love of my life. You are my royal duty." These words destroyed Diana's last hope. On the 6th day of the honeymoon, she no longer wanted to stay in the same room as Charles. Britannia's crew noticed that the prince and princess were sleeping separately. Lady Susan Hussey, Diana's lady-in-waiting, remembered the princess's condition. Diana was a different person when they returned from the honeymoon. A light in her eyes had gone out. She always seemed ready to cry.
During the last days of the honeymoon, Diana asked Charles to stop talking about Camilla. "Let's just spend a few more days peacefully," she said. But Charles couldn't even comply with this. He constantly talked about Camilla, planning when he would meet her. What Diana wrote in her honeymoon diary is very revealing. "This isn't my honeymoon, it's torture. Charles doesn't love me, he's just using me. Camilla is between us every moment. I'm just a shadow." On the last night of the honeymoon, Diana tried to approach Charles one last time. "Charles, is there a chance for us?" Charles's answer was clear and merciless. "Diana, you're very young and romantic. There's no romance in royal life. You do your duty, and I'll do mine." That night, Diana made her decision. This marriage would be a war. Charles had chosen Camilla, and Diana would choose to survive. When they returned from Britannia, Diana became pregnant. William's birth gave Diana a reason to live, but the problems in her marriage hadn't been resolved. On the contrary, they had deepened. Charles didn't give up seeing Camilla even during the pregnancy. While Diana stayed home alone as a pregnant woman, Charles spent time with Camilla. Dr. James Colthurst, Diana's friend, described the princess's condition during that period. Diana had completely changed after the honeymoon. Her trust had been shaken. She constantly felt betrayed. Diana's bulimia also began during this period. It was the physical result of the disappointment and stress she experienced during her honeymoon. Diana was trying to ease her pain by harming herself. The impact of the honeymoon overshadowed Diana's entire marriage. From the first night, she had learned that Charles would not be faithful to her. This situation completely destroyed Diana's sense of trust. Penny Thornton, Diana's astrologer and friend, explained the princess's trauma. Diana lost her innocence during the honeymoon, not just in a sexual sense, but in an emotional sense too. She no longer believed in fairy tales. Diana's honeymoon trauma also affected her behavior toward her children. She did everything to protect William and Harry because she herself had not been protected. Charles's confessions during the honeymoon had shattered Diana, but at the same time, they had shown her the truth. Diana would now be a woman who had no expectations from Charles, who stood on her own feet. On the last day of the honeymoon, Diana looked in the mirror and made a promise to herself. "This marriage will not destroy me. I will survive and protect my children." This promise
was the manifesto of Diana's future.
Lady Diana Spencer was an innocent young woman on July 29th, but Princess Diana was completely different after the honeymoon. The disappointment she experienced made her stronger, but also more fragile. Diana's honeymoon story isn't just a personal tragedy, it's a cautionary tale showing the real face of royal marriages. Duty instead of love, protocol instead of sincerity, sacrifice instead of happiness. Diana could never be completely happy after that honeymoon. The disappointment she experienced on her first night lasted a lifetime, but at the same time, it taught her how to survive. Charles's words during the honeymoon, "This is a duty, Diana," became the motto of Diana's life. She too fulfilled her royal duties, but at the same time, she preserved her own identity. Diana's honeymoon horror was also the beginning of her strong character. This tragedy destroyed her, but also prepared her to become the people's princess, because Diana had learned what pain was at a very young age.